Assalamu alaikum students. I am Ms. Aisha Abid from Army Public School and College, Khanewal. Today, I welcome you all in our biology lesson for class 9th. It is a project of APSEC's online support program. Today, our topic will be importance of fermentation and comparison of aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. Objective: we will be able to understand the importance of fermentation. Success criteria: concepts must be clear about the importance of fermentation. Today is day 3 of week 4. Our topic is importance of fermentation and comparison of aerobic and anaerobic respiration. So let's have a quick review about what is fermentation. Fermentation is also called anaerobic respiration. And what is anaerobic respiration? Anaerobic respiration is a process in which the glucose is broken down in the absence or little amount of oxygen. So coming towards fermentation, fermentation is also called as anaerobic respiration, as we all know. Most of the potential energy remains in the bonds of fermentation products. In fermentation, what happens? Products are waste to cells that make them. Many are useful for humans, such as ethanol, acetic acid, and lactic acid. These reactions are taking place in our muscles, especially when lactic acid is producing in muscles when we are overdoing the exercise. Acetic acid fermentation and ethanol, they are produced in a type of fermentation by the bacteria. Some of the bacteria that are carrying out this fermentation and giving us products like ethanol, which is used in our medical field. Acetic acid, its common name is vinegar. We use it in our kitchen. And lactic acid, it is produced in our muscles when we overwork some exercise. So what are the products of fermentation? Fermentation is basically done by bacteria. It can be done by yeast, and we can also get some products of fermentation by using a fungi. The name of that fungi is Aspergillus. So let's study it in detail. Fermentation by bacteria. When bacteria do anaerobic respiration, or when their body cells do respiration, but they do not acquire that much amount of oxygen from their environment, so they incompletely break down that glucose, as we already studied. As a result of incomplete oxidation of glucose, obviously glucose first is converted into pyruvate, 3-carbon compound, and after that it is converted into lactic acid. And in bacteria use the anaerobic respiration in the formation of yeast and yogurt. The products are cheese, yogurt, and it is also stored in our sore muscles. You can see here. Fermentation by yeast. When yeast do fermentation or anaerobic respiration, they produce different products, which these products are produced in brewing industries and baking industries, in baking our cakes and breads as well. What is exactly happening in alcoholic fermentation? In alcoholic fermentation, pyruvate is used, which is already produced by the breakdown of 6-carbon compound, which is glucose, into 3-carbon compound pyruvate acid or pyruvate. The products are ethanol along with carbon dioxide. And this type of fermentation, alcoholic fermentation, is used to make beer and bread and wine. Another kind of fermentation is when we produce soya sauce and we use this soya sauce in our soups that we love to drink. Soya sauce is produced by fungus. Its name is Aspergillus. Different species of different Aspergillus produce soya sauce. So let's have before having the main difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration, let's have that point clear about anaerobic respiration. Is that long before, when life was not existed on this planet, organisms or bacteria that were living there, they cannot get enough oxygen. So their only option was to get free or was to respire through in the absence or in the less amount of oxygen. Hence these organisms, they respire. So all these organisms that respire through in the incomplete breakdown of pyruvate or pyruvic acid, they are known as anaerobes. So coming towards our next topic, difference between aerobic and anaerobic respiration. We have to get it much clear about aerobic respiration. Oxygen is very, very important. It's necessary. While in anaerobic respiration, oxygen is not necessary. A little oxygen or in some cases no oxygen, it can lead to breakdown of glucose and producing energy, which is obviously in less amount, but it is energy. Aerobic respiration, it occurs in mitochondria. Other point, anaerobic respiration, it occurs in cytoplasm. In aerobic respiration, large amount of ATP or energy currency adenosine triphosphate is produced, while in anaerobic respiration, small amount of ATP is produced. Exact number is 36 ATP are produced in aerobic respiration, while 2 ATP are produced in anaerobic respiration. Total breakdown in aerobic respiration, there is a total breakdown of glucose takes place, and in anaerobic respiration, glucose is partially broken down, while end products are in aerobic respiration, end products are carbon dioxide and water. While in anaerobic respiration, the end products are carbon dioxide, lactic acid, or alcohol. Obviously, we know what are the reactants. Reactants are oxygen and glucose. So let's compare both of these terms that we have been using: respiration, anaerobic respiration, and aerobic respiration. So any organic compound, it can be anything. It can be a glucose from a candy that we eat. It can be fat. It can be lipid, or it can be protein. That organic compound is broken down by the process known as glycolysis into the product known as pyruvic acid. And in this breakdown of that organic compound into pyruvic acid, 2 ATPs are produced. While next comes our main topic of aerobic and anaerobic respiration. As I already told you that aerobic respiration and anaerobic respiration. And anaerobic respiration is also known as fermentation. So we have write down it here. So coming towards the topic, when oxygen is available, you can see oxygen is present. It says yes. So we call it respiration. And the products are up to 36 ATPs. It can be 36 or 38 maybe. While the other byproducts are carbon dioxide and water. Other product, carbon dioxide and water. If oxygen is not present, says no, we call it fermentation or anaerobic respiration, as we can say it. So fermentation, it is divided into two types based upon the products that it produces. First one is lactic acid fermentation. The second one is ethanol or alcoholic fermentation. In lactic acid fermentation, we are producing lactic acid. In ethanol or alcoholic fermentation, we are producing alcohol or other ethanols, etc. So I hope that topic was a bit clear. Let's have a quick recap about this topic. We studied about importance of fermentation. Fermentation is carried out in our major industries, like in brewing industries, in baking industries for making bread and cakes, etc. Then we studied about the comparison of aerobic and anaerobic respiration, in which we studied that in both types of respiration, the first step is always same, which is glycolysis, in which glucose is breaking down into pyruvate. And we all know, as an additional knowledge, glucose is 6 carbon compound, pyruvate is 3 carbon compound. Well, oxygen is present, aerobic respiration takes place, and it happens in mitochondria. Same on the same side, and when oxygen is not present, it happens in cytoplasm. In aerobic respiration, what happens? Further 2 steps are carried out so that complete oxidation of this glucose can take place. So first step is glycolysis, second step is Krebs cycle, and third is electron transport chain. And finally, we are ended up with ATP, carbon dioxide, and water, obviously. While in case of anaerobic respiration, fermentation we call it, there are 2 main types: lactic acid fermentation and alcoholic fermentation. In lactic acid fermentation, what happens there exactly is that that glucose is converted into pyruvate, and that pyruvate is used, which is converted into lactic acid and alcohol. In lactic acid fermentation, pyruvate is giving us some lactic acid, while in case of alcoholic fermentation, pyruvate is giving us alcohol along with the carbon dioxide. So another important point is that lactic acid fermentation is taking place in our muscles and in different animals, and yeast as well. While alcoholic fermentation is taking place by yeast also, and carbon dioxide is produced as a product. So that was all for today's lesson. I hope you understand our topic that we studied about importance of fermentation. It is very necessary, although it is giving us a very small amount of ATP only. On the 2 ATPs, while in aerobic respiration, we are getting more than 36 ATPs. So that was all for today's lesson. I hope you understand today's lesson very well. Thank you very much for your attention. Allah Hafiz.